It's time for the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast, the Medicare podcast for Medicare podcasters. And now, one Jones who won't share his Kool-Aid with anyone, Medicare expert Doug Jones.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. Once again, episode number 3. We have just heard from my nephew, Drew McMillan, professional Canadian announcer. I can't afford an American announcer yet, but I was able to scam myself a Canadian who works pretty cheap. So if he's doing a good job, you might want to let us know at dbj@medicareforthelazyman.com. Thank you, Drew. We talked about Medicare. Last time, as I recall, we talked a little bit about the parts of Medicare, and I alluded to the fact that Medicare has some cost-sharing elements built in. So it is not a security blanket that pays for 100% of medical bills for anybody that's covered by it. It involves some risk if one doesn't go shopping for insurance to fill those gaps and holes. And so today I thought I'd talk a little bit about the decisions people have to make when they're approaching Medicare. But before I do that, I'd like to introduce my companion and my friend, Randy Carson, studio engineer.
Doug, thanks for introducing me. Those of you who haven't been with us too long yet, I might point out that I'm coming to the podcast from the beautiful city of Cave Creek, Arizona. Today we are under clear skies, sunny, and 61 degrees. How's it looking like?
Okay, that's enough. That's enough of that, Randy. Nobody needs to hear about that kind of stuff. It's in Illinois. We haven't seen anything even resembling a planet or star up in the sky in days, if not weeks. It's very bleak here, cloudy. Some people have blamed it on the increase in air pollution because recreational marijuana became legal on January 1st. But I don't know that that's it. I think it's just the way things always are in Illinois in the wintertime. But enough of that falderall. Last time, you asked me why you refer to me as the anti-insurance insurance guy, and I never responded to that.
No, I do. That's absolutely my favorite nickname for you, Doug.
It's a lot of syllables, Randy, to have to spit out every time you. It's easier just to say Doug, I suppose. But the reason I think you do that, now correct me if I'm wrong, is that you perceived correctly that I have very little respect for most other insurance people, especially those that are commission driven and who are trying to herd Medicare recipients into products that are not necessarily suitable, but that generate the largest amount of commission dollars for the agent.
Well, no, that's absolutely true, Doug. I mean, my perception is that it's not so much what is good for the customer, it's what is good for my commission check. And ultimately, I don't think that's a fair approach because most people, you are clearly the exception, but most people know nothing about it. So it's kind of very unfair for people to take others by the hand and have them sign up for a particular plan that is not the right plan, that is more expensive than it needs to be. And really, we're just being led like, sheep to the slaughter.
Well, you're exactly right in many cases, and that's kind of what motivated me to start doing this. And I'm going to say, yes, you're exactly right, Randy. I have very little patience for those who don't, first of all, listen to a client's needs and wants and desires, and secondly, who don't offer them the products that maybe are a better fit than the ones that are most often offered. And the ones that are most often offered are the ones that pay the highest commission. And I describe all this in my book, Medicare for the Lazy Man 2020, on sale at Amazon in paperback, Kindle version, and soon to be audio. And pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. For some reason, Amazon took away all of my 58 5-star reviews, and they say they're going to put them back, but boy, I'm going to have a couple of birthdays before that happens. So there's one 5-star review right now. Perhaps if you buy the book, read it, and like it, you can leave a review also. But Randy's exactly right. There are a lot of people out there enriching themselves by steering people into products that aren't exactly the right ones for them. And I have very little patience for that sort of thing. So you can read all about that in my book. Anyway, last time we talked about Medicare Part A for hospital expenses, Medicare Part B for people who are not inpatient, they're outpatient, and they have doctor and medical services to pay for. And so that's what that's for. But people who rely on Medicare to pay all of their bills are in for unpleasant surprises, because when those bills arrive, they're going to find that they owe a chunk of money in addition to what's paid to the doctors and to the hospitals, because Medicare just does not pay 100% of everything. Somebody once calculated that for a person who has that cloud, that dark cloud hanging over their head, in Little Abner, there was Joe Mifflin's book, I think, was the character that had just this dark cloud everywhere he went. If someone had the worst possible luck, medically speaking, in 1 year, they could rack up $900,000 in medical expenses that were not covered by Medicare, even though the vast majority of expenses are covered by Medicare. So that leaves people with decisions to make. First of all, when do they take Medicare? And secondly, what do they get to supplement Medicare so that they can remove the risk, or at least mitigate the risk of having to pay large chunks of money out of their pockets? Well, the decision about when to take Medicare is fairly simple, but it's twofold. Medicare Part A is theoretically, it is paid for by the payroll taxes that you had to contribute during your earning years. And if you contributed payroll taxes, if you had taxable earnings for 40 quarters or 10 years, then the U.S. government considers you, or if you're married to somebody who had 10 years of taxable employment, the federal government considers that you have paid the lifetime premium for Part A. It will be free of charge to you, and you should sign up for Part A, since it's free, on your 65th birthday or as close to it as possible. The only reason I've ever found not to enroll in Medicare Part A is if you're participating in a health savings account and you're depositing money, or maybe your employer is depositing money on your behalf. That deposit cannot be made if you're in Medicare Part A. So that would be the only reason I can think of, but that's a pretty small percentage of the population. So I feel safe in saying that for most people, sign up for Part A as soon as you're able to at age 65. And then you'll always have that coverage. It's free of charge. You'll have it forever. Part B is a different story. Part B carries a premium, which this year is $144. And so you don't want to sign up for that too early, because you don't want to be paying $144 from day one. You want to sign up for Part B when your prior insurance ends. And if your prior insurance is something that you provided and it ends at age 65, then your 65th birth month is the right time to sign up for Medicare Part B. If you have employment insurance and you're going to work beyond age 65 and you want to keep your employer's insurance plan, then the proper time to sign up for Part B is to coincide with the end of that group plan or that health insurance coverage provided by your employer. So that would be the appropriate thing to do. Part B should coincide with the end of your other insurance, whenever that might be. It could be on your 65th birthday, or it could be years afterwards if you're going to continue to work and be covered by an employer's plan. Now, the other decisions that have to be made only involve what kind of coverage you're going to buy to mitigate the risk involved that Medicare doesn't cover. If you have Medicare coverage and only Medicare coverage, then every time you spend money on a hospital or a doctor visit, you're going to be asked to pay a portion of that cost. So what you have to do is to buy insurance to cover that additional risk, or that cost sharing amount, so that your out-of-pocket amount is manageable or zero. It's possible to make it zero, but it should certainly be manageable. And there are two ways to do that. One is called Medicare Advantage, And that's what you see exploding every year from October to December. Medicare Advantage is what the annual enrollment period or annual election period is all about. All that mail that Medicare eligibles and people soon to be Medicare eligible, all that mail they get, all the TV ads that you hear from insurance companies, all of that activity is a result of insurance companies trying to get you to buy Medicare Advantage plans to cover the out-of-pocket costs that are otherwise going to be paid by you as a Medicare participant. And then there are Medicare supplement plans. You don't hear as much about them. And one of the reasons you don't hear as much about them is because the agents don't make that much money on them. They don't have a generous commission structure. However, in my view, Medicare supplement is the only thing for most people to consider for mitigating the possible risk of having Medicare not pay all of your bills. The out-of-pocket expenses that you could encounter are substantial, and a Medicare supplement is the best way to answer those risks. So that's the short version of Medicare decision time and what decisions you're going to have to make. And I think we can go deeper into this subject in another episode. What do you think, Randy?
Just by way of a little bit of historical learning for myself, was the advent of Medicare supplement plans really just because of the rising cost of medical care, or how did that eventually evolve from Part A, Part B, and eventually Medicare supplements?
Well, when we think back to the origins of Medicare, it started because there was a push, a lot of public pressure from older people saying, hey, medical insurance is too expensive. When I get old, I have to pay a ton more money for my medical insurance, and younger people don't have to pay that much. Well, it makes perfect sense because younger people don't need the medical expenses. They don't go to the doctor all the time. They don't have as many diseases and things that need to be treated. So when Medicare came into play, it basically was a compromise between let's pay for everything and let's pay for nothing. They had been paying for nothing, and there was a big push on to pay for something. So Medicare said, okay, we'll pay for some things, but not everything. We'll pay for a large percentage, but not 100%, because the cost of the program would be that much more. So then the insurance company said, okay, we can't sell insurance to people who are in Medicare. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, we can. There are some gaps and flaws in Medicare. We can sell specialized insurance policies to cover those gaps and flaws. So it's kind of like insurance companies said, hey, we still want to sell product. If you're not going to allow us to sell medical insurance to age 65, 66, 67, then what are we going to sell to them? Ooh, we'll sell much less expensive products, and those products will cover the gaps in Medicare. Did that answer your question, or did I just wander off into the woods?
No, it answered it perfectly, Doug. Thanks for that clarification. As I've said probably to you 100 times, the whole process of how this works together is confusing to me, and I'm very thankful that I have you to depend on because you're the expert. We're kind of running to the end of the day, or kind of the end of the podcast today, so.
Rats, I hate it when he shuts me up.
Yeah, we want to keep it short.
My thoughts flow out of my mouth like verbal diarrhea, and Randy has to put the lasso on me and pull me up short every once in a while. So good job, Randy. I do want to plug my book again, Medicare for the Lazy Man 2020, on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. It's a short read. It simplifies Medicare, and if you want to read something, and frankly, I would pour a stiff drink. By the time that drink is finished, you'll be most of the way through the book, most likely.
Ultimately, one other thing that I wanted to mention is be sure and reach out to us. Doug has guaranteed me that if you reach out to him and agree to let him use your name, that you will be a star of the next MLM podcast.
Well, I'll tell you, the address for email questions is dbj@medicareforthelazyman.com. And if you send those questions, send those comments. Let's say you don't like Randy, for instance. Don't be shy about that. Go ahead and share your opinion with us. We don't care. But The other interesting
Oh,
thing is I've got a stack of correspondence questions from readers of the book. Over the last year, people have written in and they've said nice things and very few mean things. So I've got a stack of those, and maybe one of these days we should do an episode where I just randomly pull out some of these things and read to you what people have written to us. And that might help people understand the kinds of questions that we're prepared to answer.
I think that would be a great idea. And ultimately, I think that's something we need to incorporate into the next podcast. As soon as you've already got a queue back up, so I think you should just have a mail bag beside your desk there, and reach into the mail bag and pick
All
one
right.
out.
Well, why don't we do that in the very next episode?
Sounds good. Well, I do thank everyone for taking time to listen to our podcast. I think it's probably one of the best sources of information on Medicare and Medicare supplements that exist. It's all free. You don't have to pay to join us. You don't have to do any of that, but it is expert
In fact, if you
information.
want to pay
So,
something,
thanks.
pay to make us go away. If somebody sends us enough money, then we will not bother you anymore.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. Well, thank you, everyone. We're going to sign off for today, and have a great day, and we'll see you
Bye-bye.
next time. Thank you.